Good morning, guys. This one's under the subscribers only stream, right? So, look, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, there's no real change in terms of Bitcoin, right? It's still kind of doing its thing. It's still very boring. It's still pretty much sideways. There's still no reason for 100K, and there's no reason for, this to drop to nothing or 12K. I think ultimately these bigger moves are always going to take longer time frames, right? I've been waiting for an Aussie trade for about 18 months, and in the meantime, there's plenty of opportunities to be had, even if it's in other instruments, right? So one of the things that I've been kind of sharing a lot recently, I've been doing a lot more of the prop trading myself. And actually been taking some kind of smaller time frames, and obviously the more time I'm spending on the chart, the more obvious things are becoming, the more obvious they're becoming. Not so much the more trades I'm taking, but the more accurate these trades are, because you're kind of getting back to learning and understanding, the character, right? So, there's a couple of things. Now, this is where I guess the time frame factors come into play, right? A lot of people don't really understand and almost can't comprehend how the fractal nature of these charts kind of piece together, fit together, right? So, bigger picture for me, the move is ultimately this blue line, right? So I kind of expect a bigger move down, larger move up, right? Now, if I come across to the chart and I look kind of out on this, I'll share this picture with you in a second. Right? Now, bigger picture, right? This is what I'm currently seeing in terms of I want this kind of move to come down. There's liquidity kind of tapped underneath you, right? And therefore, I'd love to see this price kind of drop down a little bit further, not take this too deep, and then ultimately, I'd say fall up, right? Which, is kind of almost a silly term, but I want this to kind of not so much rocket up, right? But to go up kind of gradually. And this is based on the DXY move ultimately going up to come down, right? So I want this to be a kind of DXY corrective play rather than an impulsive euro play, if that makes sense, right? So when I look at this particular move, what I'm seeing right now is we're kind of busy going nowhere. When we're kind of coming down, we've probably got some kind of channel, right? And again, this for me is I just like to see that liquidity grabbed before we make any real, big play, right? So although this is kind of weekly and daily still, this isn't monthly, this isn't, colossal. What I'm looking to then do is inside these moves, take these kind of smaller moves again, right? Now, given that I've got this on the screen, I'm going to share this and I'll put this into the Musing channel as well, just for you to see, right? You've got to understand that these ranges, these moves, these plays, how they play themselves out, but more to the point, why they play themselves out, right? So, for example, we have this move up, right? So let's assume that we have this move up there. Actually, I'll see if I can draw this on to make it a little bit easier to comprehend. If we were to have this move up there, right, and let's just assume that we've got this move here, we're going to see first move down, right? And this is always the kind of AR type move, right? Then you're going to get a move back up. Now, the point being, there's a couple of things that I suppose really give the game away. If you think of where the stop losses are sitting, right? The stop losses are sitting. We technically haven't had this move yet, right? So the reason for me for not going down so far, right, is bigger picture. This for me is probably only there, right? We've had the first AR. Now, although this is, a great example, nothing's ever textbook. And this is where you've got to understand what's happening inside the range. So the thing is for me, I'm looking at this saying, well, we haven't had the second move, right? So I'm not regarding this area as this area just yet, okay? What I'm looking at, let me get rid of some of these just to make it clear again, right? I see this as this, that's fine, right? I then see the AR move here, see the AR move here. Right? Now, basically, at this particular point, you're going to have a lot of traders that have come in here, right? They've actually gone and maybe shorted this, right? But they wouldn't have caught the exact top. So what they're actually seeing is that they want the price to fall down. Right? They've now come in and they've shorted this spike. Okay, so this spike is the interesting area for me right now. Now, the reason that this is interesting then is that we've got a master pattern kind of up and above, right? So it wouldn't be a surprise to see a move down and a move up, right? Play around, then we get this type of move on a smaller time frame where it spikes above and then drops down hard. Right? Now, again, the logic behind this and putting these pieces together, I'm trying to get you guys to kind of mash the fractal charts together, right? To combine these things. So I'm currently on a weekly time frame, right? Now, if we've come and we've started thinking, well, potentially this is an uptrend, get a pullback, and we get a rally. Right? Now, the first thing they're going to want to do is take the stop losses. Right? So as we see something like this, we're going to see the stop losses being taken. So although this one hasn't happened there, it almost heightens the chance of it happening here. Right? Because there's clear liquidity sitting in and above this region here. Right? So this area for me is quite useful. Right? There's a master pattern there, bigger one daily. Right? So there's an awful lot of liquidity there, but at the moment there's no clear signs that we're actually ready to go up. Right? So if I then drop down a time frame, drop down a time frame, drop down a time frame, I'm going to see this type of pattern kind of over and over and over again. Right? So forget what's happening on the euro at the moment. Let me explain this, kind of step by step through this as a process. Right? Get rid of this one. Get rid of this. Oh, I want to keep that last one there. Higher probability move. Actually, I can get rid of that now. That's already happened. And then obviously this there. So we rally on up. We create a high. We drop down. Right now, at this particular point, a lot of people are saying, well, this is going to be a continuation of the trend. So they start to buy. Right now, a lot of you have probably heard of the three soldiers and the candle patterns, and you've got the three black crows, three white soldiers, etc., etc. A lot of retail traders are looking for these types of moves, right? So you get this kind of three candle push, then ultimately a drop, right? Now, again, it's not textbook. This isn't always going to be the way. You're going to be looking for signs. You're going to be looking for things like this, right? That we've had three pushes up, but the last push kind of pushed and failed, right? Go inside the candle stories, right? These are videos that you've got available to you, in the educational section. So we see this move down, right? And then the move comes and it takes the stop losses. Okay, so we've had this kind of rally, we've had a push down, right? We've had a move back, which obviously didn't take the stop losses, and then we ultimately push and we take these stop losses. Right? So we could argue that we're there, and this is there, and therefore the move up is going to be to take these before falling down. Right? Now, this is where the probability comes in. Right? This isn't going to be exact science. This isn't going to be I'm going to guess this and hope that we go this way or the other. The point being is being able to give yourself 2 or 3 options. Now, the 2 or 3 options will then lead to your bias. Now, this is why for me this was interesting, right? And I wanted to share this image with you guys this morning. As you know, I'm not doing as many YouTube videos. There's really nothing to say when it comes to Bitcoin at the moment. And that obviously is what a lot of people want in terms of these, these YouTube videos, right? They want Bitcoin kind of insight. And the reality is, nothing's changed. Nothing really, really has changed. So let's come back so I can get that image loaded up. It's a bit slow with OBS this morning. Let me drag these over so I can find, there we go, there's the image. So, smaller time frame, right? I'm looking for the same type of move, the same type of pattern, because it all leads back to the same type of mentality, right? The same kind of concepts, the same kind of thinking and logic. We've had this move up, right? We've basically come, now this one's a little bit more interesting, right? Because on the weekly, it showed that we hadn't taken the high. Whereas on the daily, we've had the rally up. Right? We've had the rally up. We've taken a high, right? We've then come down and created basically this, right? Which is technically the range, right, now. And then what we do is, at this particular stage, we come and grab these seller stop losses. Okay. We then ultimately fall down. So this is kind of, we fall down one. Right? Right? And this is why I'm saying, for me, the reason I'd like this move is we fall down, we take these stop losses, we then rally on back up, and then we drop them hard. Right? So you can see these patterns kind of playing themselves out over and over and over again. All you have to do when it comes to a bias is don't marry it, right? Don't think to yourself, this is the only thing that can happen, it's the only thing that's going to happen. Don't try to predict it, right? Don't think to yourself, oh, if it gets to this level, I'm just going to buy. Right? And this is another mistake a lot of people tend to make, right? They just kind of, they see a level and think, oh, well, either Lewis said so or Paul said so, or this is what my education's telling me. Just put an order entry in at this point. Because the chances are, smaller time frame again, you're going to be making a similar pattern to this upside down, which means the stop losses for a long entry is likely to be spiked before going, right? So these levels are not exact levels. These levels are not meant to be exact levels. These levels are areas of interest, right? Now, you could draw these as a big box, right? What I'm looking for when I take these kinds of trades and what I'm looking for when I enter these types of moves is I'm looking for the character traits of the pair, right, of the chart, of whatever time frame I'm looking at, right? And then I'm trying to compute from a weekly to a daily, down to a 4 hour, from a 4 hour into a 1 hour, from a 1 hour into a 15 minute, 15 minute into a 5, right? And you can step this down to trade it on any time frame you want. Right? Now, the beauty is for me on this one is I see that we need kind of a push up to come down. Now, technically, we've just had the push up, right? Now, the push up is what I talked about in this type of yellow move, right? And this goes back, obviously, come through musing. This goes back a little bit in time in terms of this yellow move, right? I wanted the move up to come down, right? Now, obviously, smaller scale, right? This is what we've actually saw. This is what we've actually had. We've had the move up, right? So I'm kind of happy with the move up. Now, at the level that I wanted the move up to be, which is, again, not exact science, right? This is the kind of level that you want this to be, right? There was a little bit of a cluster here. There's a bigger move there, a lot of volume, right? If you stick in the volume profile tool, you'll see kind of why. What we've then gone and done is we've actually, on a 4 hour time frame, we've actually ascended up, right? Now, we've had, green candle, green candle, green candle, green candle, green candle, more green candles, candles, right? And they're all green. Right? Now, the benefit of this here is that as we near my level, kind of run out of steam. Right? You're going to see things like volume dropping off, right? You're going to see where we start rising, let me just zoom right in there. As we start rising, right, we start seeing this move here. Right? So again, this doesn't need the stochastic. You can see this in volume. You can see this in general. Right? So the way that I'm reading this right now is I knew that we needed to go up to come down. My bigger bias is to drop down. We've got an ascending move that's getting tired as it nears my target level. And therefore I can drop down to these smaller time frames to kind of work on this again. Right? So what I can do is I'm going to leave this line on there and come down into a 1 hour time frame. Now I'm going to look at this and say, well, what have we done? We've now come up to the level that I was anticipating. Right? That doesn't make me a genius. That isn't, something that is really important in the grand scheme of things. This, the level as a line is more of a mark of respect, right? It's respected an area that I expected it to be interesting in. We've then gone technically sideways and we've dropped from that level. Right? So what we're seeing right now is a drop for a retest with a move on down further. Right? So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say to myself, well, where are we? Well, right now, we've got CVD falling, right, as we ultimately fall, which means we could spike up and above this level again before we fall. Right? I'm going to see if there's any news coming out in the next couple of hours, maybe even tomorrow. But the point being is, without really going into depth in terms of what Elliott count I'm in, what the Wyckoff kind of schematic is looking like, I can take this and I can use this move with my bigger bias. My biggest bias, right, is I want this to drop. I don't want this to rise and therefore any impulsive move to the upside, I'm looking at this saying, is my bias incorrect? Is my bias not the right bias to have for this type of move? Right? So I'm currently on an hour time frame here, and I'm seeing that we've got a little bit of room that we could go up, right? But there's one thing that's actually really interesting for me seeing this chart here. We've got this stochastic, turn, right? But the last two volume bars have been red. So there's no real intent with this move up that we've currently just had, right? I'm going to drop down into the smaller time frame, right? And what I'm looking for now is I'm looking for any rationale for us to have a new impulsive move, right? The move isn't impulsive. Right? Now, earlier on, I posted this with a little yellow arrow. I want this move to come up, to come down. We've obviously dropped below it, right? So obviously at this particular point, there's no trade on the table. I'm not interested in taking this down low to up high. Where I'm really interested in is taking this from up high down low, right? And the reason for that is my bigger bias, my yellow move here, right? Is that if we come into this range and we start to see the games being played, right? I want that as a short rather than a small term long, right? So this is how I'm kind of stepping through the process, kind of step by step by step. Right? Now, one of the things that I posted yesterday, I want to just finish the video on this, right, is I'm looking to do almost a trading desk. I was reading a book over the weekend, and for you guys that have been here since really the start of Discord, and since we started Discord altogether, I've mentioned a couple of times turtle trading, right? And setting up basically a bit of a team, working with a team very close. Now, this particular book, you can click on this link, you can buy this book on Amazon, etc. There's a company called SMB, right? And what I found after reading the book, now I read this book a long time ago, but I've kind of picked it back up more recently. I've also just bought this guy's second book, which I can't remember the title on this. Um, but look, long story short, it's the closest educational stuff that I've seen, right? Although their course is $5,000, it's the closest educational content to the type of stuff that I'm very comfortable with, right? It's the type of thing that, it kind of made it interesting for me to watch some of these guys' videos, right? And that's kind of saying a lot for me. I don't tend to watch other people's videos very often. Um, I, I know not personally, I've gone past it. That's kind of arrogant to say, but I kind of like what I like. I kind of know what I know, and I also know there's a lot that I don't know, and therefore I kind of feel that I'm comfortable with what I have rather than looking for new strategies and techniques and tools and so on. And as Paul mentioned in one of the channels yesterday, I take a lot of this information, kind of really compound that information and throw away about 90% of what I'm actually watching or listening to. But the one thing that I wanted to do with this, and this goes back to the start of Discord, is to create a more of a trading desk for prop firm traders that we can actually kind of join up more as a team, right? And to kind of put this out there, the way the prop firms work is old-fashioned kind of formation was these guys would rent offices very close to the exchange. They would have, very good kind of data feeds in terms of where they were. So they were a premium location. And then the general idea was that, the owners would kind of put in their own capital. Their own capital would ultimately then be one of two things. You'd either rent the desk to the trader, or you'd put the trader through an educational kind of 2 months, 3 months, 6 months worth of a course, and then actually have these guys trading, your capital. Now, with what's available today with FTMO and other types of prop firm, tools, the way that I'm thinking of this right now, and this is not completely kind of done, or it's not completely ironed out yet, but the general idea is that I want to work with, 10 to 20 people overall, right? And this is kind of the scale and the size that I'm thinking of in terms of this SMB type of concept. And the idea is that we go into a bit more depth in terms of analyzing not my charts and my tools, but kind of your charts and tools. So if any of you members are interested in this, obviously DM me in terms of finding out a little bit more, and I'll go into a bit more depth. And then what I'll do is if the numbers don't kind of match up and marry up, and the reason that I'm saying kind of 10 to 20 people is that, ultimately, if it's any less than 10, it doesn't really make it worth my while in terms of wanting to, kind of expand this. This is, obviously another, kind of money making opportunity from a wider group perspective, but this isn't obviously a kind of a cost up front. So the general idea would be to really get to know 10 to 20 people kind of within the group. Now, if obviously we don't get to that kind of number, then what I'm going to be doing is offering a similar service out to the wider audience, probably starting off with the visitor section. And then basically that'll be a pay for play model, right? That's going to be you charge them almost a rent a desk module because they haven't actually subscribed. So obviously this is just for you guys to know what I'm kind of up to, and the bigger picture for me is this all falls under that kind of money management perspective, and money management play slash plug. So that's what I'm up to, that's what I'm currently doing, that's what I'm currently working on. So again, kind of DM me if you're interested in finding out a little bit more. If not, go away, watch obviously some of these little videos and come back with any questions. So anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you on the next stream. Cheers all.